argument made by Gia that I am refuting is a homeschooled environment positively affects a student's success in their life circumstances. Her secondary claims are, number one, homeschoolers achieve better academic results than traditionally schooled students. Number two, homeschoolers participate in accelerated learning by utilizing their resources. And number three, they are young adults who are productive in their home, community, and society. Now I'm going to review what was problematic in the advocate's speech. My first challenge to her first secondary claim is that not citing or defining information in a speech makes you lose credibility. The first thing that I want to point out is that the ACT test was not defined in the advocate's speech. I found out from the ACT website, which is actstudent.org, that the test is a national college admissions exam, and it consists of tests in English, math, reading, and science, and then is graded on a scale of 1 to 36, and 36 being the highest score possible. Also, in the first claim, a quote was given to support the advocate's claim, and that was, Stanford University admitted 27% of its homeschooled applicants. However, the year that this occurred was not mentioned, which it was in 2001, and the source was not mentioned, but this quote was found in the book Homeschooling 2009. After the quote from this book, that was, another quote from this book was, once in college, homeschoolers tend to have a higher GPA average than traditionally schooled peers, but there were no statistics found on this matter, so this leads to loss of credibility to the advocate. She also mentioned that homeschoolers win scholarships, but this data was not cited, and a counterclaim to that is that traditionally schooled students are able to win scholarships. I personally won a scholarship, and I was not homeschooled. Therefore, the problem with the first secondary claim is that credibility was lost due to lack of citing, defining, and statistical data. My second challenge to her second secondary claim is that all students can utilize their resources to accelerate learning. The advocate argued about homeschoolers getting one-on-one learning and extending their everyday classrooms. However, the reasoning on this is not limited to homeschooled students. All types of students are able to get one-on-one learning, and there are programs in schools designed to help kids who are struggling, and they're free programs. A program known as Resource is what was used and still is used in the elementary school that I went to, Donia Merced. And this program works with the teacher and the student on a one-on-one level. And the advocate also mentioned homeschoolers extend their classrooms to museums, fire departments, hospitals, and city halls. However, public school students are also able to visit these places, especially when they go on school field trips. Therefore, the second secondary claim applies to many different types of students, so it can't be limited to only homeschoolers. My third challenge to the advocate's third secondary claim is that the sample size used in the survey of the statistical data was too small. According to Janice Lloyd of USA Today News, in 2007, there were 1.5 million children homeschooled. However, the advocate had a survey that was completed with 7,300 adults who had been homeschooled. Although 7,300 people are a good amount of sample size, or a good amount of people, it is not enough sample when you are talking about 1.5 million people who are homeschooled. And to say that homeschooled graduates are more involved in the community and civic affairs, which is what the advocate said, than traditionally schooled students, it might not be accurate because the sample is such a small percentage of the population who are homeschooled. Therefore, the survey used inferential statistics So it's difficult to draw conclusions about 1.5 million people who are homeschooled when you're only looking at 7,300 of them. In conclusion, the challenges to the argument by Gia are not citing or defining information in a speech makes you lose credibility. All students can utilize the resources to accelerate learning, and the sample size used in the survey of statistical data is too small. Thank you.
All right, the structural issues are fine. The argument, though, that you make on the first point about the lack of definition of what the ACT is, or you know, the number of people, or the dates on the Stanford research, for instance, I don't know what that gets you. I don't know how it diminishes the argument. The only thing that you say is it diminishes the credibility of the argument because the advocate failed to provide that data. Well, first of all, you provide the data. So now all of a sudden, what's the problem? You've plugged in that information there. So you've made it more credible than it was before by providing that information. It's a minor press at best, and I'm not sure that it gets you very much. All right, the issue on scholarships, you know, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to point out that scholarships are available to all kinds of people. Their argument sounded more like it was kind of a rebuttal argument as opposed to a reason for homeschooling is because you get access to scholarships. It's more like you can still get access to scholarships even if you are homeschooled. So I don't think that it's really, I don't think the inference that the advocate was making was that people couldn't get scholarships unless they were homeschooled. So again, I'm not sure how much that argument that you have responds to anything that's of critical importance. I thought that the hypotheticals on field trips, that was argued reasonably effectively. In other words, the advocate simply says, well, here are all these things that kids could get access to, and you come back and say, well, yeah, they could get access to that in the public schools too. So we've got one hypothetical, one hypothetical assertion on one side and an equal hypothetical assertion on the other side. This would be a good place, for instance, for a piece of evidence that shows that kids going to traditional schools get frequent field trips, that those field trips visit a variety of places, that they're less likely to travel places where there are things that are not academic in nature, like the field trip of a homeschool to Disneyland versus the field trip of a public school to, I don't know, some other place, wherever they happen to go. I don't know what they go nowadays. You know, I went to the Helms Bakery several times when I was a kid, and they don't even have the Helms Bakery anymore. Yeah. So, all right, and then on the last point, you make a challenge about the inferential statistics there, and you don't have any data about what would be a sufficient survey in these circumstances. 7,000 to make an inference about 1.7 million sounds like a very good sample to me, but if it was misrepresented or if it was distorted in any way, then there would be a problem, but you don't give us a reason to believe that that is the case. So a lot of presses, a lot of reasonable points. I thought the scholarship point and the field trip things, those are good reasonable challenges to make there, but a little bit of evidence wouldn't have hurt to back them up. All right, thank you.